Good evening, everybody. This is Alderman Lee from the 11th Ward. It's Tuesday, May 21st. We are here for a community zoning meeting for a request to change from an RS3 single-family residential to an RT4 type 1 to correct a nonconformity at 2819 South Throop. The owner of the property is Linda Muller. She is here on the call with us, along with her attorney, Mark Kupiak, who's joined us by phone. So Mark, so just for everybody's knowledge, if you haven't been to one of these meetings before, we allow the owner as well as their attorney to explain the need for the requested zoning change, and then any other details that they want to present. And then if there are questions or concerns from anybody in the room, in the neighborhood, that's participating, they can raise those questions and concerns while we're on this call. So you have at least one neighbor that is on the Zoom, and then we've got two folks in the room here with us at the ward office. So Mark, why don't I hand it over to you so that you can explain what we've got going on here.
Thank you. That'd be fine, Alderwoman. Thank you very much. This is Attorney Mark Kupiak, and I believe I've got my client Linda Muller, also on the call. And I'll try to keep this as straightforward as possible. Linda owns a building on Throop Street, which is the subject matter of this hearing. And those of you who are familiar with the building could understand very well that if you take a good close look at this building, it is a 3-story building. And Linda would be happy to tell you at the time she bought the building, it was a 3-flat building, used as a 3-flat building, occupied as a 3-flat building. But based on my experience, if you would visit the site and walk down the stairs around to the side or back of the building, very clearly this is a 3-story building, looks like slab on grade, and looks very clearly original construction. Our unique feature, and again, still contains the 3 apartments that were there when she bought the building, I'm guessing 15 years ago. The unique feature is this section of Bridgeport at some time in the distant past raised its streets and raised its sidewalks. And I don't know the whole history of that. I think there were some sanitation concerns at the time. So the streets were raised and the sidewalks were raised. Anyway, that's the situation we have today. So the confusing feature is, say, for example, for a building inspector, if you were to drive down the street in front of the house, park in front of the house and looks like the first floor of the house is below grade, looks like the first floor of the house looks like a basement. Although, as I said, if you actually walk down the steps, if you walk around the back, pretty clearly it's not a basement and not below grade. It is at grade. In any event, Linda had a notice of violation with respect to one of the apartments. The violation was a little vague and confusing, but it was a question that there was no permit record of how many legal apartments were or are in that building. So the city's position is that there's only 2 legal apartments and that the 3rd apartment is not legal. Problem we run into with old buildings is city does not have permit records for old buildings. So we were not able to get the original building permit to show what the original construction was, because we still firmly believe it's originally a 3-flat. However, Linda does want to bring the building in compliance. She has consulted an architect, does want to get a permit to establish a permit record. But our problem is that the lot is a little small, and we don't have the lot size to qualify under the minimum lot area for the 3 units that currently exist and have always existed from her point of view. So she came to me because she was advised that she needs a zoning change to allow her architect to pull a permit for a three-flat building to establish the necessary permit record, and then to take that building permit back to court to show that she got the permit. So we approached the alderwoman about rezoning the property so Linda can get that required building permit. And then the alderwoman suggested we needed the meeting tonight, and here we are. And that's my explanation about why we need the zoning change. I'd like to point out, she's not looking to make any changes. Building would not look any different from the outside. She merely present an architect's set of plans, which would be reviewed by the city, probably mostly for exiting, and then the city would issue the permit for the 3-unit building to resolve the situation. So we're here tonight just to explain that to you. Linda would be happy to tell you what that building looked like and was used at the time she bought it, and how she's used it ever since. And we're happy to answer any questions about our situation. So I think that's
Linda.
my overview.
Thank you, Mark. Yes,
Linda, is there anything you want to add to that?
I purchased a building. It's almost 20 years that I've had the building. And the plat of survey that I have the original plat of survey that shows it as a 3-story brick apartment building. I have concerns with leaving that unit empty because the pipe's freezing in the winter. It's just not safe. Sleep empty, and it's always been rented since I've had it as a 3 apartments. I'm just trying to make it legal and get it okay to maintain the way it's always been.
Right, so just so that everybody understands, so it's zoned single family residential right now, which the building is not single family residential. I don't have Mark, do you have the zoning history on this? Was this building downzoned at some point?
And we've got a 100-year-old building, and unfortunately these days we have the city's online zoning map. In the old days, we had the Index Publishing Company books to look through as far as the history of these properties. But today, you look at the zoning map and it shows you what the current zoning is, but doesn't show you what the zoning history is or was.
Yeah, and
I'm
the zoning
guessing,
history, it doesn't go back farther than what, 2000 and something. It doesn't go all the way back
Well,
to the history.
yeah, it
and, like,
goes
in
to 2000.
perpetuity.
It goes to 2005 when they adopted the last zoning code. So
Okay.
it does show zoning changes that have been made since 2005 or 2004, where
But
the last zoning code
nothing
was
earlier
adopted.
than that. Yeah.
But nothing earlier than that. And my guess is, because we're 100 years old, that this building may have in fact been actually built before the first city zoning code was adopted. Looking at the other buildings on the block, this looks to be one of
Sure.
the oldest buildings on the block.
Yeah. So just to be clear to everybody, the zoning change that's being requested is just to make it so that she can get into compliance.
Yeah.
She's not actually able to pull a permit to even fix the violation that she's been given,
Correct.
without a zoning change to do this. That's the only thing I wanted to contribute to this conversation. So at this point,
Thank
Ignacio, if you want to raise your concerns or ask your questions, please, the floor is yours. You just have to take yourself off mute. We haven't started for Emerald yet. We're on the first one. You can come sit down, no problem. Ignacio, you need to unmute yourself if you're going to talk. Do you see the little red microphone button? Or a button that looks like a microphone with a line through it? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm next door neighbor on 2815 South Throop, and I don't mind to any changes that will help her to bring this to compliance.
Mhm.
My only concern is this: for the last few years, there's been a little remodeling by them, and I never see many dumpsters to be rented to use it. And sometimes the alley, there's like a little debris most of the times. and there is always been debris down there. Sometimes they don't clean it, and there has been like nails all over the alley when we drive and we want to park our cars. There's been like a little, the debris that they don't clean, and unfortunately we got a couple flat tires many times. That's one of the concerns. My second concern is this: we're gonna rent these people, and there's people moving in and out for many times. Is there any way that they have like a little screening, because there's people like, I know they're a small pot in their apartment, which is their private property, but when they do outside, like in the patio, everything blows to our houses next door, and obviously we need to, bring this to concern to the landlord, because if they're gonna do rent to these people, we want to make sure they're compliant with some responsibilities that they will bring. Uh, we have a families next door on both sides, and I know from fact that they don't want to deal with these issues. Other than that, we don't have any problems, and just to keep it clean, if they don't mind, we try to keep clean next door, but we wish to next doors to have a little cleanup. We had an issue about 3 4 years ago where there were raccoons going into their garage. They never, I don't know if they noticed or they approached the problem. Like, there was one guy that used to go in there all the time, and I tell him about the problem. So, there is things like that that need to be addressed if you want it rented to people. I don't mind anything that is gonna bring helping and everything, but I just want to be address those problems too as a neighbor.
Nope, I got it. So
Yeah.
thank you for raising those. And Linda, do you want to respond to him at all? I mean, I feel like we have your contact information, so I would, Linda, do you
time.
want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
Says you please take my contact information, and if there's ever any problems with anything or garbage left out. I know that the raccoon thing, there was the garage was cleaned out and it had flooded back there from some really bad rains, and there was a lot of garbage then, and I had to pay the city extra to have it picked up in. So I get that. And your house next door is beautiful. I need to keep it very nice. And I do try to maintain it. I holler. There was a lady that rented the basement that had stuff growing, pumpkins and crazy stuff in pots everywhere. And I made her get rid of everything. And I try to, maintain it as best I can. And the man you're speaking of is John, and he did maintenance for me, but he had a stroke and I've replaced him since then. So I do have a healthier person maintaining the building. That helps.
Thank thank you, and I'm willing to work with you and everything. Yeah, I just want to bring my concerns out there. Which another problem we have, alderman, and I know it's not the moment to discuss it, but we have a mayor floating on that corner because there is no drains around the corner alley, and
Mhm.
the three houses, hers, mine, and the next house, there is all the water is going down there, and it's like going inside our
Is it
yards
going
or
inside
backyard.
your yard and your
So
garage and your
we
gangway?
already we already put a claim to the Department of
To the city?
Transportation
Yeah,
a
okay, good.
couple years ago, but we don't know what's the status on that. Just another thing that we need to let you know.
Yeah, so
Not
Nacho,
taking over.
why don't I give you a call separately about it? Carlos from my team. Or I will reach out to you to get the information from your previous claim so we can check to see what the status is of that. But in
I will,
general, like if you've got issues like that, please reach out to us. If you've got an issue with the neighbor and we'll make sure that you have Linda's contact information. Linda, if it's okay, we'll share your contact information with him.
Yes,
I
it's fine.
will really appreciate.
Okay, great. So if you have no objection, Ignacio, to the,
I got no objection. Just to
okay,
make sure you bring um a little screen people to
yeah,
when you're rented,
Correct.
because it's mostly family homes around, and I hear from different neighbors that we it's hard to know, but if you do just the effort to have
yeah,
you
I
know what I
have
mean.
I have a company, NTN, credit referrals that I use free tenant. So I do screen them, but you can't ask if they smoke.
Yeah.
No, and I know when the property is legal, it's legal to do it, but same thing like
Yeah.
like when, let's say, when you play music, if you play within your house, that's legal, but when you go outside and that disturbs the neighbors, that's different
Yeah.
story. So that's my point.
Please
Right
please call me anytime it's disrupting you or they're doing something or noise or whatever it is. You feel free to call me.
Yeah, the one
you.
additional thing that I'll add in here, and this is something pretty standard we look for from an 11th ward perspective, is when it's a multi-unit building, we do ask for a restrictive covenant around no Airbnbs. They've become rather problematic in the ward for us. If they're not managed properly, they can cause a lot of issues for the neighbors. And I'm hearing from Ignacio that the desire of the neighborhood is to keep it as a quiet neighborhood as possible. So is that something that you could agree to? No short-term rentals?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
that's not what I've looked to do with that building for
Perfect.
2
Okay.
years. Like,
So Mark,
say the
if you
better.
can, if you can make sure that that's part of, that's memorialized in a covenant, that would be great.
Yeah. Well,
Are there any
we'll draft it.
questions? Any questions from people in the room about this? Okay, then great. Then I'm inclined to support the zoning change. Linda and Mark will prepare a letter of support for the zoning change that we'll send to the zoning chair and to you, Mark. So you've got a copy of
Thank
it for
you.
whenever you file the paperwork. Okay, well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Ignacio, we'll make sure we get you Linda's contact information, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Alderman.
All right, no problem. Take care. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Thank you.